Welcome back to Simply SharePoint's Metadata series. In the previous video, we looked at what SharePoint metadata is, why it matters, and how choosing the right metadata type can transform the way your organization manages information. Now we're going to build it. In this practical step-by-step video, I'm creating a simple SharePoint Policy and Procedures Library that can be adapted by almost any organization and provides a strong metadata foundation for Copilot readiness. We'll build the solution from scratch and create a document ID column, summary column, a document type column using Managed Metadata, a department column using a Lookup, document owner using a person column, document status using choice, a publish date using a date column, a review period using the number column, and an automatically calculated review date column. The finished solution will give us more than a place to store documents. It gives SharePoint useful context about what our information is, who owns it, where it belongs, what state it's in, and when it needs to be reviewed. And that's an important part of preparing information for AI and Copilot. The goal isn't to create more metadata. The goal is to create the right metadata. This is the practical companion to stop organizing SharePoint like a file server. Metadata explained. So if you haven't watched the theory video yet, I recommend starting there before following this build. Now let's get started. So we're in our Policy and Procedures library, and we're going to add a column. That's first is the text column, which is the document ID. So we type document ID, and then we just save, and then move that column into line where we want it within the library. The next column we're going to create is the multiple lines of text for the summary field. So we type summary, and again, click on save. The next column that we're going to add, so add column. This time we're going to be selecting Managed Metadata, and this is where we pick the column that's already in the term store. This one we're going to pick is document type. We're going to navigate to our term store, find that term. So I keep it under information architecture, document type, and we have a group called policy and procedures, and click on save. Then we'll move that into line. In the next column that we're going to create, so we click add column again, and this time we're going to be adding a lookup column. So I select lookup, and then we're going to call this one department, and then we're going to look for that list I created earlier called department and pick that up from there, and then click save, and then move those around again. So the next column we're going to create is going to be a person column, and this column is for the document owner. So type document owner, scroll down. I like to show the pictures, so I select that and then save, and then we drag that into position. The next column, add column. The next one that we're going to be creating is a choice column, and select next. And this one is for document status. So type document status and then enter each of the items on the lines there. So draft, etc. Complete all of that. Now I put draft as the default so that every document that gets dropped in the library is automatically tagged as draft, and then select save. And then move that into line. Now let's create our next column, so add column, and this time we're going to select date and time, and this is going to be our published date column, and then select save. And the next column that we're going to create after we move that one in line, click create add new column. This one's going to be a number column, and we're going to call this one review period. And that's just going to be a number column, and save. And then the next column that we're going to create after we move that into line is going to be a calculated column. For calculated columns, they're not in the made list. You actually have to go to see all column types and select it from there. So look in the list and see calculated column, a window pops up. Here we go, give that a name, call it review date. That one will take a minute to create. Scroll down, and from there you drop in the calculation, and you can see what that is on the screen. So that will then look at the publish date and then how many months you set in the number column, and calculate what the new date's going to be for that document to be reviewed. So we'll now have a look at that. And so now we have all of our columns in the Policies and Procedures library. So I like to move them all into order so it makes sense. And then we can upload some documents and see how it's looking. So now that we have all of our column types, I've gone ahead and uploaded some documents into here. So all I did is click upload, file upload, navigated to my files and upload them. So you can see I've uploaded 4 files. You can see that here that I've then filled out the metadata for this first one. Document type was policy. They were all automatically tagged as draft. So we set that as the default. I select the department, the owner, the publish date. When I put the publish date in, I then gave it a review period of 12 months. So it automatically calculated that review date. I then added a document ID number and a summary, and there we have now a complete document with its metadata completely filled out. So let's quickly fill in one more of these, and then you can see how this library works, for policies and procedures. So I'm just going to editing review, and this is an expense policy. So click on the tag. I'm going to select policy and apply. It's a draft. The department for this one is going to be finance. Again, the document owner is me, so I'm just going to drag that down. Makes it easier. Publish date, I'm going to put in for today. And you'll see as I move across, it automatically kept it in for today here. But if I say 12 in here, it will move it up a year automatically. So you'll see that take on the actual date. It's a read only cell. So the moment that'll appear, and then we will for finance give it a document number and then a summary. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm going to exit grid view, and you'll see that date did change there. And then you can go through and update the rest of these. And the beauty of having all of this metadata is you can then sort and filter, say by the different departments, filter by show me all policies that are related to IT, apply. And so there's so much you can do now that you have this metadata. Also, if you have Copilot, having that metadata gives you that context so that you can easily search, sort, and then just talk to Copilot to find your documents. So there we have it, a completed policy and procedures library using the right columns for the right purpose. And that completes our policy and procedures library. We've taken the metadata theory from the previous video and turned it into a practical SharePoint solution, one that gives our information more structure, context, and consistency, and provides a strong foundation for Copilot readiness. Thanks so much for watching. And if you found this useful, make sure you subscribe and follow along for the next video in the metadata series. I'll see you in the next one.